What a difference one quarter can make. Americans have voted for a new Republican president. Back home, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has unleashed what could be called as the biggest reform post-independence. And there is ugly battle between two of the largest shareholders of Tata Sons. So what is the new normal? What kind of world we could be staring at? To answer that, I have the perfect guest, someone who perhaps has all the answers. N. Chandrasekaran. Chandra, so good to have you back on ET Now. Thank you for joining us. Historically, I've always introduced you as the CEO of TCS, but today allow me to introduce you as the CEO of TCS and also the board member of Tata Sons.
Thank you, Nikunj.
And I guess this is a turning point not only for your group, for the world and also for Indian economy. So let's first start with the big picture, and the big picture is that Americans have voted for a Republican president who's talking about locking down America, who's talking about changing the world. Is the Trump era a big fear for the Indian IT industry?
See, first of all, let me say that the Republican presidents in general have been pro-business, okay, and India has done well during a Republican regime in general, and the IT industry is no exception. We have done well. I personally do not believe that there is any risk to the IT industry. I underline, I personally do not believe there is any risk to the IT industry due to the election of Mr. Trump as the President of the United States. Let me just expand a little bit. I think the common question that everyone is asking is the visa regime going to be very difficult. But if you look at the visa regime per se, we have had incremental changes to the visa regime in the US over the last several years. There have been visa fee increases, there have been restrictions on the number of visas, etc. This is something that we have coped over the last several years. And today, if you look at our resource mix, the way we serve our clients, the resource mix has three types of categories. One is we have people who are in visa, primarily H1 visa, and people who are recruited nationally in the US. And the third one is the resources that we have due to subcontracting or business associates, whatever you call it. And the cost structure between the H1B visa holders and the nationally recruited associates, it has kind of been benchmarked already. So there is no difference. So what kind of resource we deploy in a given situation pretty much depends upon the type of the skill required and the location it is required and the type of engagements and what kind of a global sourcing model that we use, etc. So I don't think there is going to be a fundamental impact if any restrictions or on the visas come about. That's my take. Second, what else can happen? There can be a quota increase or a quota decrease, or there can be a visa fee increase. But any one of that will have an impact equally on all players. If there is a visa fee hike, and that will impact everybody. So I personally do not believe there is going to be a specific impact on TCS or on Indian IT sector as a whole due to the visa regime.
But Chandra, if you're forced to change your global delivery model, that could have implications on the way you sell, your profitability, your margins. So could we be staring at a reboot?
No, I think the global sourcing model itself has evolved. If you really look at 10-15 years ago, both in terms of the number of resources we had and the number of resources we had in India compared to any other part of the world, including the United States, that has dramatically changed. So with the increasing adoption of global sourcing model and the type of technological and methodology change that we are seeing, for example, today and the future is all going to be agile and DevOps. Anyway, there is a huge amount of change that everyone is going through, not only in terms of adopting to the technology, embracing technologies like cloud and digital analytics and so on and so forth, but also to work in the agile DevOps continuous production paradigm, and that will involve new ways to engage with customers, new ways to develop software. How do we work between business and IT and provider together? All those changes going through.
So, Chandra, in computer terminology, it's like control alt delete. A reset button has been pressed. A reset button has been pressed in Europe. A reset button has been pressed in US. The world has voted for not left but largely, right line thinkers. Anti-outsourcing was something which the previous election rhetoric was. Protectionism is something which has been used right now. Do you think a lot of noise which has been created ahead of US presidential election is only election rhetoric and things will settle?
Yeah, because the best way to look at is customers and what they're going through. If you look at industry by industry, let's take financial service sector, because everyone who talks to TCS wants to know what is happening in the financial service sector. Take a financial services sector. That sector has gone through a massive amount of spend in regulations and compliance. To my mind, they have gone through a significant amount of effort and spent a significant amount of money in preparing themselves and done all the heavy lifting so that they are compliant. And it is not to say that there won't be any regulatory spend or compliance spend, but all the heavy lifting has been done. There is a lot of pent up demand because they also are adopting digital and they need to come up with new products and services, because most financial institutions have shrunk in the last 5-6 years. Now they are at a size where from here they have got to grow in terms of the right products and right services, and that will require technology. To my mind, that will propel a lot of growth. So even from a TCS point of view, while we had given a cautionary statement in the middle of last quarter, we have not had any incremental bad news. So I personally believe that that sector will look forward to growing. And you can go, similarly, if you look at manufacturing, the best thing that is going to happen is the industrial internet, and that is all technology. So you can go industry by industry. So I personally believe that we should look forward to the tech industry, IT services industry in particular, to be participating in this growth in the quarters and years to come.
So when we spoke to you immediately after your numbers, you said, look, clients are taking their spending slightly easy. They are waiting for clarity, whether it is clarity on the outcome of US presidential election or outcome of Brexit. Brexit for the moment is a no-no. The outcome of US presidential election is already out. Do you expect that clients will come back automatically?
I think so. See, I had talked about 3 industries in particular. We had said that the banking and financial services industry, we are seeing some slowdown. We said there are delays in the retail segment. They didn't ramp up as they were scheduled to ramp up, and then we saw some postponement in India. And we think that the delays that happened in India will come through in this quarter, and we have seen ramp ups in retail subsequently. So we will get to participate some of that growth in the Q3 and remaining in Q4. And we have not had any incremental negative news in financial services. So I expect from here all these 3 things should only look positive and not negative.
So you would stick to your comment, not your guidance, but your comment that this quarter will be better than the last quarter.
Yeah, I have said that this quarter will be better than the typical Q3 of last year and probably better than last quarter.
Chandra, last 7-8 years, we've seen central bankers, they followed a loose monetary policy. They pumped in a lot of liquidity. Deflation was a real risk. Now world is gearing up for inflation. US bond yields have gone up. And historically, I've seen that every time a large economy comes back, the financial sector per se always benefits the fastest because they tend to capture the growth. So could we be looking at a big reboot for the US BFSI sector, your bread and butter sector?
See, first of all, I would just say that in the BFS segment, we have done incredibly well, even during these last 5-6 years. Our BFS growth has been at the company level or higher than the company level every year, and we have gained market share in the BFS segment across the board. But I agree with you that the sector per se has had a lot of issues, has gone through one of the toughest times in the last 5-6 years. And that is why I believe that there is a lot of pent up demand, and some of these banks have shrunk, and they are looking at innovation in a big way. They are looking at products and services which will drive growth, and there will always be spent towards simplifying so that they can get efficient. But in addition, I think there is going to be a lot of spent towards whether it is automation, whether it is capturing growth for their benefit, and that will drive a lot of demand. So I am actually positive on the BFS segment.
NASSCOM has cut their guidance. Finally, are they realizing that, I mean, they are realizing, but they are realizing late that Indian IT industry is slowing down?
I think you should not blame NASSCOM for it. See, NASSCOM tries its best to communicate what they can get from the different companies and different trends and from the external stakeholders. And they do an outstanding job in my mind. They engage with all of us, engage with the customers, engage with external stakeholders, and that team works very, very hard in trying to give a view of what's coming. But you can't hold them accountable if they say the numbers are 11 to 12% or 8 to 9%.
Fair point. You know, along with your FY 15 numbers, you said TCS is growing at a run rate which is higher than the industry average. That comment was also evident in FY 16. Would you like to say that again with your FY 17 numbers, that you are growing at a rate which is higher than the industry average?
I think we have had a tough year. Let's not deny that. I think we have had the slowest growth for a Q2 in our history. Okay, and there were reasons for that, and also our exit rate and the problems that we have had in 2 or 3 areas we had highlighted, and I think we are coming off all of that, and I believe that we will do well going forward.
So Chandra, you don't give me a numeric guidance. I have to judge by a body language, which sometimes can be deceptive. So let's talk about sign language. The trend for TCS has been like this. When do you think it will become like this?
I think from here we will look up.
So the trend is this way.
Yeah.
Chandra, I have to ask you the obvious question, and the obvious question is that, do you think the fight between 2 largest shareholders of Tata Sons is actually bad news for the group per se? The news is coming at a time when there are challenges in the world. Brexit is a fear. Global businesses are slowing down, and now there could be churn at the top.
No, I think fundamentally, I think it's obviously it is not something that anyone would say that anyone would not say that it's a sad thing, but I don't want to comment on that because one doesn't know what happened, what is the reason, etc. But there you have it.
But do you think this will have a huge, not a business impact, but a brand impact on the group?
See, I think the way to look at it is to look forward. I think Tata Group has impeccable reputation. Tata Group is, I would say to some extent, it's India's pride. And when you say Tata Group, it's a multi-tiered structure. There you have the trust at the top, which is known for their CSR and philanthropic activities for more than 100 years. And then you have Tata Sons, which has built businesses, many operating businesses, and have been supporting all these operating businesses for over a century. Then you have the operating companies like TCS, and each of us try to come up with products and services that are best in class, or at least we strive to come up with best in class products and services to meet the demands of the customers, to give a better quality of life, and also to drive shareholder value. But the linkages are very important. And if you look at TCS per se, we have 370,000 people. All of us, each and every employee, derive enormous amount of bonding from the fact that we are a Tata employee. Okay, we all have a bonding and share common values, and that's very important. And if you look at, for from a customer perspective or the image perspective, everyone in the world knows that eventually 2/3 of us are won by trusts which are involved in philanthropic activities. And that is a big statement. We get a huge amount of respect because this is something that has happened 100 years ago when the word CSR was not defined. So that is very special for us. And the parentage is equally important as is the operating freedom. And that's the way we should look at it.
But Chandra, now serious questions have been raised about how Tata Group is really respecting the role of independent directors. What role the board has to play? What role the trust has to play? Who has the final authority?
See, I think, I can talk about TCS, okay, and we have a very strong board. We have very eminent people on our board, and all of them, great set of directors. And, they've always made the call on what is right for TCS. So, the way I look at it is that the independent directors look for the interests of the company, and they've always looked for it from a TCS perspective.
Fair point. But so my next obvious question would be that what was your equation with Mr. Mistry? He was the chairman of TCS. Was he guiding? Was he just endorsing what you were doing? What was your personal equation with him?
I had a very good equation with Mr. Mistry. I enjoyed working with him. I have a huge amount of respect for him.
The outsiders would argue that it was a dream team. Two young guys who understood technology, who had understanding of the global, global change. They came together and a behemoth was made.
See, I think, the way to look at it is, on the one hand, if you're asking me about my personal equation with Mr. Mistry and what I thought of him, we had an excellent relationship and we worked together very well and so on and so forth. But if you ask me about his role, he was a chairman of TCS and director of TCS nominated by Tata Sons. And now there is a dissonance there. Okay, and that is a problem because you can't have a adversarial relationship between TCS and Tata Sons.
Chandra,
So there are two different.
Fair point. I
aspects.
completely understand that the setting and things have changed, and I respect that. But as a minority shareholder, some would argue that what happens to my interest? All Tata Group stocks have fallen anywhere between 5 to 15%. So markets clearly are not happy with what's going on.
I can't comment on that.
Have you got a sense from your institutional shareholders that are they ready to take sides? Are they ready to support what's going on?
No, from a TCS point of view, we meet investors and they know TCS is on a great track and a great future. And we answer any questions, any concerns they have. And they have not raised any concerns to me.
But nothing changes for TCS?
Nothing changes for TCS.
What would be the role of the new chairman now?
I mean, TCS chairman's role is well defined. I mean, I don't think that there is any change. Whoever is the chairman, that's appointed by Tata Sons, and I expect that they will nominate the chairman, and it's business as usual.
What should we expect in the next EGM? I mean, a boxing match?
You guys are very good at hyping up things and creating sensations. I am not.
But the information to the stock exchange is that you want Mr. Mistry not to be part of the board. What is
this is a board. This is a board decision. Okay.
But it connects. It affects TCS.
From a board point of view, the simple message is that from the interest of the company, you cannot have an adversarial relationship with your promoter shareholder. As simple as that. It's not about any individual.
How has life changed for you? Dual role now?
No, I'm primarily CEO of TCS, and any board positions is not a full-time job. You know that. And actually, hardly I'm in many boards. The number of boards I'm operating are only 2 now. Okay, one is a Tata Sons board, and one is a RBI board. Otherwise, I'm a full-time CEO of TCS.
Because individuals matter, Chandra. The reason I'm asking you this question is because we've seen with the IT sector how individuals matter. TCS, with you at the top, TCS, when you were not at the top, things have changed. So some shareholders would argue that will I get that will TCS as a company get disproportionate time and attention from Chandra?
I am TCS CEO first.
As an
Any
inside,
board position is a you learn. See, you can't. All of us do things which are other than the full-time job of running the company. You go to World Economic Forum. Why do you go to World Economic Forum? Because you learn. Being in RBI is a great learning experience. I expect that being on the Tata Sons board will be a phenomenal learning experience.
but Chandra, you've always been a Tata Group guy. 1987 is when you joined, and you've always been with the group per se. As an insider and as part of the Tata Group, somewhere are you slightly saddened with the fact that the controversy has evolved in the way it's been handled?
See, I think the way to look at is that in a long journey of a group, it's a historic group. I mean, it's going to complete 150 years. They hardly had any controversy to the extent that I know, because while I have been in the group for 30 years, I'm dwarfed by the longevity of the group. Any controversy is not a good thing. But it's important that institutions go past controversies, because institutions are far more important. And especially this institution, the Tata Group per se, is, I would say, as I said in the beginning, India's pride. It's more important for the country, more important that institutions are looked upon differently. So it's not about one controversy or the other.
So Chandra, without getting into why and what, let's talk about what's next. What's next now?
Meaning what?
In terms of how things would progress at the board
See,
level.
I think I hope that the group moves forward from this. I think they have said that they will find a new chairman, and things will go on.
Insiders and outsiders, they both tell me that you're the front runner to be the next chairman of Tata Sons. Has the nomination committee approached you?
No, and why you don't want me to be in TCS, or?
No, but that could be a dual role.
No, nobody has approached me.
Okay, so let's talk about something which is of larger national interest. And the larger national interest is demonetization. Some would argue that this is the biggest reform post-independence. That's on paper. But the bad news is that your GDP will slow down, consumer spending will slow down, and that will have an impact on the aggregate demand per se. What's your sense?
It is a very big reform. I would like to formally say in your channel that it's a very bold and courageous move, and the government needs to be congratulated. Sometimes when you take decisions of this kind, you cannot worry about what the short-term impact will be. The short-term impact also, people are conjecturing, and morally, this is something that needs to be solved, and it is a bold move. And if this issue can get solved, removing black money from the system is not an easy one. One measure is not going to solve it. I think it needs to be attacked from multiple fronts, and I presume the government will take more steps, and it will yield results.
It's a great reform, but do you think somewhere the planning and execution has not been flawless?
Who am I to comment? These are monumental issues, and they have to keep it secretive, and they've got to invoke it. In a manner of speaking, how much planning can you do? You cannot involve everybody in the ecosystem. When you want to do a big change, normally when we put a change, we have got to identify the stakeholders and involve all the stakeholders so that everybody can plan their activity. But this is a type of change where you cannot involve anybody. So how much planning can they do?
Okay. So can I safely summarize our today's interaction saying that given what's happening in the world, yes, a shock wave, a new normal, and Control Alt Delete has been pressed, but it is business as usual for TCS?
I think so. I'm positive actually.
And if at all there is opportunity rather than a threat, given that what's happening in the world?
I think so.
Chandra, really appreciate your time. Glad you could join us. It's been a turning point. It is a turning point for the group and for, I guess, the world per se. So thank you for accepting an invitation to talk to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/etnow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at etnowlive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/etnow.